Hey, good morning, y'all. Happy Wednesday. Meteorologist John Hominick here with Empire Weather. Hope everyone is doing well. Having a great week so far. Our latest agriculture video update is here, and we're going to get into it today, taking a look at what's going on nationally and what to expect in the next couple of days and weeks. So I'm going to do a little bit of a different format today, and I'm going to lay out three important things here. First of all, it's been very dry across the central and eastern belt into the northeast United States over the last 30 days. We know that. Right. This has given us quite a hit on our soil moisture. This is the root zone soil moisture, which is down below 30% wetness and below 20% in a lot of areas as well. So it's been very, very dry. That's number one. Number two is the fact that as we look ahead, El Nino will continue to build. The negative PDO is trying to persist off the coast of California, but the warm waters in the North Pacific are fighting it. That's number two. And number three is the fact that as we move ahead into June, there's building agreement on models that the jet stream is going to come back into the central U.S., and that should lead to more expansive precipitation chances as we move past mid-June into the latter part of June for the entire agriculture belt, moving into the second half of the month and beyond. So those are the three main points. Now let's talk about how we got here and how we're going to move forward. So the last 30 days have obviously been very, very dry across a large majority of the central and eastern belt. We've seen some areas get some rainfall. Southern Minnesota, Iowa has seen some rain that has helped at least negate the major dryness. But essentially from eastern Nebraska and the Dakotas, eastern Kansas and Oklahoma, into the Ohio Valley, into parts of the Great Lakes, Michigan, it has been extremely dry. If we zoom in on this in the central U.S., you can see we're talking 2, 3, 4-inch precipitation deficits in these regions. And if you zoom in further on the Ohio Valley, you can really see where the focus has been, where the last 30 days have been quite dry. Total precipitation across these regions during these 30 days are not insignificant. There's been some rain, but the degree of that rain has not been nearly enough. And if we look at the last 14 days in particular, you can see that this region has seen mainly just scattered shower and thunderstorm activity. Your heavy stuff has all been back here. So the result of that has been dry soil, dry subsoil, and a lot of the Dakotas down into eastern Nebraska is getting hit very hard, western Iowa, and that's also spread into parts of the Ohio Valley and into the parts of the Great Lakes. This is not something that we can't recover from, but we need to start seeing the changes quickly to start to get this pattern moving. Because a couple more weeks of dryness like this, getting into summer-like temperatures, and we're going to have a problem. And we need to start to see that those changes happening in the atmosphere. So if we look at where we are right now, I'm going to go back to North America here and just take a look at where we are right now, because for several days and weeks now in several of these videos, I've talked about the lack of jet stream flow across the United States. And we continue to see that as we move into the middle part of this week. The upper level low spinning here over New England doesn't do us much help. It does provide some possibility of showers, isolated showers and storms in parts of the Ohio Valley, but it's just kind of actually deflecting a more significant jet stream away from us. It's not doing us much help at all. In fact, more than anything, it's actually kind of hurting us. So we need this to go away. That's number one. We have had this omega blocking pattern across the U.S., and it's just led to these upper troughs sitting over the east. But it's also deflected the jet. So your jet stream has been going up here into Canada, and then splitting down here into the subtropical jet across the south. And so when we go back to look at this pattern across the United States and the areas that have been hit with the rainfall, if you look at where that rain has been, it's all been over here. Because this is the area that's been getting in on this subtropical jet that continues to pour in and bring moisture right here. You see this jet stream coming back in here to the southern plains. This is where the moisture is, folks. And it's not making its way into this area because we continue to get these upper lows spinning and deflecting it away. So what do we need to do to change the pattern and really flush this away? The answer lies in momentum. And I say that word a lot, but I think sometimes it's important to talk about what that really means. So I'm going to zoom us out to the Pacific Ocean to give you an idea of what momentum looks like. So right now, here's the United States on the east, the right side of this image to the east, and British Columbia, here's Alaska up here, and the Aleutian Islands. Across the west coast of the U.S., there's very little momentum. You see how the jet stream is just kind of splitting here? It goes this way, it splits north and splits south. There's nothing coming yet from the Pacific that's driving into the United States and bringing momentum. In order to get that momentum, you need to have convection moving through the tropical Pacific. You need thunderstorm activity and momentum to move that along. In other words, you need some help from the MJO, or in this case, you need some help from this enhanced jet streak that probably caught your eye initially across the North Pacific. This is the start of our pattern change. And it comes from both the MJO and a recurving typhoon. And it's given us a boost because if you watch what happens here moving forward, that jet starts to move east. And all of a sudden, your flow is not splitting up as dramatically. It's actually starting to pour into the western United States as we get towards June 10th. And if we move beyond that and we continue to roll this forward, your flow is now angling down into the western United States. You see that dropping? Watch the top of this jet start to drop in to the western United States as you get closer to mid-month. That, folks, is the change that we need. Look at how long and extended this Pacific jet is. All this momentum is pushing towards the United States, and that is good news if you want to see moisture in the central United States, and it's a very different pattern than the one that we've been in. We talked about the MJO, so I want to just back up for a second and look at that, because what we're looking at here is the propagation of that MJO through the tropical Pacific. The bottom of this chart shows you the tropical Pacific. So the United States is kind of up in this general region. This is the area that we need to focus on. Here's Eastern Asia. What we want to see is these greens. This is convection and thunderstorm activity. We want to see them going from left to right across this chart, just like they are here. This is the date line. And we want to see the subsidence, or the brown area, also moving with it. And that's exactly what we see on this European model run, this European ensemble. Convection is moving across the tropical Pacific, and it's moving from west to east. And that is almost directly associated with our Pacific jet extension development as we move into the middle part of June. So what that does, and I'm going to go back to North America and show you what that does. What that does is it takes this pattern that has been just sort of endlessly spinning this upper low here, keeping this area dry, and keeping this jet down south, and it changes it to this. You now have a subtropical jet coming in, so you're getting more moisture in. But your Pacific jet, we talked about, it's still coming, right? Watch it come into the United States here as we roll this forward. All of a sudden, as you get past June 15th, you have a pretty substantial jet stream entering the United States, and we have not seen this for weeks. You now have a large jet in the Four Corners. You have a flow of moisture returning from the Gulf through the tropical Pacific and back up into the United States. And that jet stream, folks, is angled in a position where these storms and this moisture are going to ride right up into the agriculture belt and produce precipitation chances as this jet from the Pacific keeps pouring on down into the United States. Now, it's not without risk, because this isn't going to be a pattern that's going to give everyone rain all at once. But it is going to finally shake loose, at least temporarily. It's going to finally shake loose the very, very dry pattern. So here's how we expect it to go. This is a European model through this weekend. Here's our scattered storms that we expect through today and into tomorrow. But we will also get a cold front that's going to drop southward and bring some scattered shower and storm opportunities to parts of the Ohio Valley this weekend into early next week. I'm going to break this down into 24-hour increments just to show us what it looks like, because it's not insignificant. I mean, this area has not seen rain in quite some time. So here we are Saturday afternoon. That front is dropping in some scattered shower and storm activity in Iowa. And then Sunday is sort of payday for a lot of the I-states, Michigan, the Ohio Valley on this latest European run. Sunday afternoon, showers and storms widespread across this region, and they shift eastward through Monday morning with some additional rain across Michigan Monday. So here's your 72-hour totals from that front. I wouldn't pay too much attention to the specifics. What I'd pay attention to here is the fact that the model is showing the potential for over a half inch of rain in some areas, and even upwards of an inch in some spots as this low pressure system wraps up. So this is the first rain event that we've seen in quite some time that could deliver some substantial precipitation to the area. We even get some additional stuff behind it on the European during the middle part of next week with another storm complex. Are you catching on here? Because what's happening is we're getting into a more active pattern. We back up again, look at the United States. Our next system is already waiting in the wings and ready to drop out of parts of the northern plains as this begins to ramp up. So if we go look at the ensembles and see what happens from here, we can get a better idea as to what's happening in 24-hour increments. So here's our weekend front, comes down, moves through. We get a second disturbance across the Ohio Valley middle of next week, June 15th, and then we move beyond that, and we talked about that active pattern, right? There are more storm clusters in here, folks. This is past the 15th, moving towards the 18th and 20th of June, additional storm clusters, and then moving beyond that, past the 20th towards the 21st, some more storm clusters coming. So what I'm saying here is this is a much more active pattern with moisture chances, and it's all being driven by the changes in the Pacific jet stream. This jet dumping into the United States changes the whole game because it brings this jet stream back and allows this Gulf moisture to get more involved. So I'm overall encouraged by what I'm seeing on these models as we move into the middle and latter part of June. But again, we have a lot of work to do. So we're not without risk here. You guys know how this works. Not everyone's going to get rain. Not everyone's going to get, 3 inches of rain spread out over a week and then, come out of this dryness. It's going to take some time. But we are setting ourselves up pretty well here with this jet stream pattern to get several storm clusters and storm complexes into ag regions that really, really need it. And it really all starts this weekend. Looking ahead, we talked about the European model. We talked about the possibility of that warmth as we creep into July. And the latest weeklies continue to show that ridging expanding a little further northward and the temperature profile getting a little warmer. It's, again, not at over concerningly levels right now. Some of this feeding back on what I think is a forecast that's too dry on the weeklies. Excuse me. But we continue to see a hint of a much warmer pattern in July, and it's something I want to keep in the back of our minds. With that being said, as we look ahead and we see the European now, the latest seasonal data predicting a moderate to strong El Nino developing as we move through this summer, we know that those El Ninos tend to be hotter across the southern plains, but fairly stormy across the northern plains. And that would make some sense looking at this chart, because even though we have a ridge, that ridge is centered in Texas and in the Four Corners. And your trough up here on the West Coast, that's going to send disturbances over the top of this ridge and keep the precipitation chances coming for the ag belt. So I'm again, although there's some signal that it could get warmer as we move into July, there could be some heat, I still think that the ag belt being on the periphery of this ridge is the best sign that we could see for additional moisture chances. So again, just to back up, we've gotten ourselves in a little bit of a hole here in the central and eastern belt, but starting this weekend, all signs, including the sea surface temperatures, including the El Nino forecast, and especially including the Pacific jet, suggests that we're going to get into a more active pattern. And looking at the precipitation forecast, it starts this weekend with a shower and storm chance across the Ohio Valley, and then it continues into next week with several storm clusters taking us through the end of June. And we'll start to gain confidence on how these will track and where they will track as we move through the next several days. So stick with us. We're going to guide you through this pattern change. Obviously, we're still in that part of the forecast where a lot could change. And given the dryness, there's definitely some risk we need to work through. But we'll work through day by day as we go through the next couple of days and weeks. As always, if you guys have any questions, give us a shout. Otherwise, have a great Wednesday morning. We'll talk to you real soon. Take care.